President Trump saying that you don't do a ceasefire when you're literally obliterating the other side. We also heard from Iran, an Iranian official earlier today, saying that Iran is unwilling to discuss Hormuz while under attack. You add it all together, it doesn't seem like an end to this conflict is imminent.
Well, no, and that's kind of the feel in the markets today. The last 24 hours have brought a very different vibe here in the way people are looking at this in terms of timeline, that it could, in fact, be a lot more protracted than we expected. I don't want to do a ceasefire. He said it. You don't do a ceasefire when you're obliterating the other side. And he also said we don't use the Strait, which is something that we've heard quite a bit lately, suggesting that that oil is going to other destinations, even though, of course, it's impacting global prices. Although he says NATO could help us, but so far they haven't had the courage to do so. This type of language has not been helping the markets feel a lot better about things, obviously. And that exclusive reporting by Bloomberg that you pointed to, Iran saying that it won't even talk about the Strait until attacks against the nation stop, make us realize that this could be a bit longer or a lot longer than folks had suggested, with reporting today that the president is considering putting troops on the ground to seize Karg Island, if not the Strait itself. He did not acknowledge those reports in the driveway and said he didn't want to talk about it when troops came up.
Well, this is what I'm curious about, too. In addition to the comments there outside the White House just a few moments ago, earlier in the day, he also was speaking on the issue, and he seemed to be relatively concerned. Maybe concern isn't the right word, but he had some choice words for NATO allies and the idea that they're not stepping up to open up the Strait of Hormuz. The idea here, as he seemed to reiterate there as he walked towards the helicopter, the idea that it's not really, the U.S. oil that needs to go through the Strait, so why should the U.S. itself be involved? And that's getting to this idea of why the markets, Joe, have been on edge here. Have we heard anything at all from some of those nations as to whether they indeed would try to step up and take control of this situation?
No, and look, the United Kingdom has suggested that it might send some help at this point, but not to the extent or scale that would be needed to reopen the Strait. And you're right, Romaine. He called NATO a paper tiger and referred to our allies as cowards, saying we will remember. And that's language that we've heard from him before, suggesting some sort of punitive outcome for our NATO allies. But indeed, whatever goes through the Strait may not be headed to the United States, but it does impact the price that we're all paying. And I know that I don't need to explain that to you, Romaine, which is why this market's getting more worried, it seems, by the day.
Just real quickly, Joe, and I don't want to be glib about this. I know we're only 3 weeks into this, but some reporting coming out of Washington, your colleagues, including Jennifer DeLuey, Courtney McBride, and the headline that they have is quagmire, an Iran quagmire. Are we at that point where we can start talking about this 3 weeks in as a quagmire?
I don't think so without actual troops on the ground, which I think you would have to have that element to call this a quagmire. I think the worry is that we're going in that direction. The fact that we are having that conversation here with the idea of hundreds or maybe a couple of thousand Marines landing on Karg Island, that would put them 15 miles off the coast of Iran and would put them in harm's way potentially. Also, the idea of reopening the Strait. The president today, by the way, just now said it could reopen itself. I'm not sure what he means by that. When we talked to Leon Panetta last evening, he said it would involve thousands of troops on the coastline and essentially a no-fly zone. And Romaine, you remember the no-fly zone over Iraq, how difficult that was to enforce and how expensive it was. That would send the price tag of this war much higher than what we've already been talking about.